Behind every mission, there's a plan. Behind every plan, there's a soldier, training, leading, and getting the job done. This is the Kentucky National Guard's G3 podcast, where we share the stories, lessons, and leadership that keep our Guard always ready, always there.
Welcome, hello to the G3P Fix Bayonets. I'm your favorite podcast platoon sergeant, Sergeant B. We're here today for I'm going to call this the Hip Pocket podcast today. A little change up from what we've been doing. It's something that, to me, personally, we needed to do to bring attention and awareness. It will focus with the training, but also of, hey, that upper mobility for these junior enlisteds, for these young NCOs like myself that are available to be promoted. And it's a big thing is always questions of how do I get promoted or how do I move on or advance in my career, which we all want to happen. And so today we're going to kind of bring in and talk about that EPS list, right? I can't spell it, but that's what we're going to be talking about. And everybody knows that word, everybody in the military, but we're going to bring in somebody that can explain it way better than Sergeant B can. And with that, we have Master Sgt. Michael Meredith. Welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Enlisted Branch NCOIC.
That's
here
right.
With the G1.
Yes.
So G3 hosting G1 today, and we're going to talk about that promotion list, right?
That's right.
How people can advance themselves on that list and get promoted to the next rank. More money, more. Don't get me wrong, more responsibility.
Right.
But for not to stay stagnant, to get those young leaders to get promoted, and that's what we're focused on. So, but let's start off with you, Master Sergeant.
Okay.
So we're here. Let's talk about where did you begin in your career? Was you always in the National Guard, or did you go to a different branch? Or
Yeah, so I enlisted in 2006 in the National Guard. I was split ops, so enlisted my junior year of high school. Went to basic training, Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay.
Came back for my senior year, and then went to AIT at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and became a 42 Alpha.
Right.
And it was just one of those things where, I grew up with my mom and dad, always working in retail, one at Walmart, one at Kmart.
Okay.
And
dang, that's a clash. That's like
right,
Louisville, Kentucky right there.
Exactly.
What in the world?
But I grew up watching them struggle, watching paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. They did everything in the world to provide for my sister and I growing up. And work ethic is one thing that both of my parents have. Mm-hmm. But I just kind of reached that point in my life where I said, man, I don't want to live like that. I want a job, a career with purpose, and the military was that natural path for me.
Right.
So that's kind of how I ended up in the military.
That's awesome, though. And you talking about that, I think that's a very key point of even in nothing about your parents or anything, but some people find themselves in tough situations growing up. Mm-hmm. Maybe they only have one parent or and stuff like that, but I think a lot of people have that drive. They want to do something unique. They want to do something with their life, right. and sometimes it's the card you're dealt. But you have to play your own hand and what you can do with it. But one thing you mentioned was that work ethic. They were grinding no matter what.
Absolutely.
They grinded, make sure y'all were provided for, and it seems like that drive kind of stayed with you for this.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be here where I'm at today if it wasn't for
that's
that.
great.
For my parents. Absolutely.
But okay, so did you? What made you, I guess, go to the recruiter? I always like to ask this question, see the story. Did somebody serve in your family? What's the history on the military side thing?
Interesting story. So both of my grandfathers from on my mom and my dad's side served in the military.
Okay.
But for me, it was I knew like sophomore in high school I was going to be a Marine. I was joining the Marine Corps.
Right.
So when I went to go enlist at 17, turns out you got to have parents sign for you at 17, right?
Got to sign that damn permission slip.
So and that was one of the things where in the height of Iraq and Afghanistan, my mom was just not having it.
Okay.
And she happened to be going back to college at the time, and she had a National Guard recruiter in her class. And she made me a deal and said, hey, you talk to the National Guard recruiter, see what he has to offer, and if you don't like it, I'll sign for you to go join the Marines. And it was one of those things where my National Guard recruiter vested so much time and effort and energy into me. It was an easy choice. I just decided the Guard was the way for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you still remember that recruiter, I guess?
I do.
A lot of people always do.
He's long gone and retired now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, good for him. But you said invested into you. What did you mean by that? Did you just keep constantly reaching out? Was it something that?
Not even that. It was more than that. So When I was a freshman, sophomore in high school, I was every bit of 270 pounds. Like I was a big dude.
I got you. All muscle.
Yeah.
I got you.
And did you say all muscle? Yeah, no, far from that, man.
Hey, man, 50 Cent, fat kid loves cake. I'm the same boat. I'm the same boat.
So even though I knew the military was the route I wanted to go,
Right.
I had tons of work I needed to do.
You knew.
Right. I had a lot of work I needed to do to even meet enlistment standards.
Right.
And once I established that relationship with my recruiter, I mean, he was picking me up after
I got you.
school.
Okay.
Saturdays, mornings, he was picking me up, and we were either going to the gym or going for a run.
great.
And just that level of personal investment in me and
yeah.
making me feel like I mattered, I was like, all right, man, the National Guard it is. That's no brainer.
Putting that time in.
Yeah.
And that's because I've heard similar stories like that too. And even nowadays, some of the recruiters will push out. Even social media is a big thing, so it's like, hey, I'm gonna do this workout at this gym if anybody wants to join, and kind of get that social aspect with the kids per se from high school or even people that's been thinking about joining. But just to hear that perseverance from him, I mean, I guess. Even on top of that, just stepping back and looking, not only, was it he was invested in you, but that was kind of your first picture of an NCO, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And him taking his responsibilities and showing up and putting in that work.
Showing me what it means to care about your soldiers. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, that's good. So you joined in 06. You said you went to Fort Jackson, became 42 Alpha. Is that the only MOS that you have?
No, so I have 35 Fox as well, but that was picked up later on in my career.
I got you.
Yeah. So...
Well, let's work that out then. So what made you go from 42 to 35? Did you start working like full-time, or was it, when did you land AGR, I guess, or full-time orders, ADOS?
Yeah, so I think about 2008 timeframe, I got on ADOS orders for recruiting. So I worked in recruiting at the Louisville MEPS in the National Guard office. Did that for a short term, and then in 2010, I got my first AGR job as an admin NCO for the 223rd MP Company.
Okay.
And then... went to the 198th MP Battalion S1 for a short time before boarding and getting the position as the Assistant Operations and Training NCO for the 41st CST.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, got you.
Yeah, so
you kind of bouncing around getting different aspects of everything.
So I was kind of taught early on that broadening assignments and exposure just to learn and develop for myself would pay dividends for my career.
Very good.
And it clearly has.
It shows, don't it?
Yeah. So on the CST for about 4 years, and then boarded again and got the Readiness NCO position for HHD 75th Troop Command. And that is where I picked up 35 Fox.
Okay, what's 35 Fox?
Intel Analyst.
Okay,
yep.
All right.
So I was the Readiness NCO.
What am I thinking right now? That's not the same thing.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm messing with you. No, go for it.
So... became a 35 Fox, and then realized, as an AGR E6, E7, not much upward mobility for a 35 Fox.
Right.
And that's when I lateraled back to the 75th S1 shop to get kind of back on my career progression MOS as a 42. And then became an E8 as the S1 NCOIC for the 63rd Tab, and then lateraled to my current position as the Enlisted Branch NCOIC.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and you hit on a good point, and I think it's a very great point. I want everybody to listen out there, especially if you're full-time. But it also be for the traditional soldier is sometimes you have to step out of that comfort zone. And I think that's a big thing that I would like to harp on. I did it myself. That's why I'm in this position as we speak. My career was never going to be a podcaster, right? I mean, it still ain't. If my job's decided on this, I ain't making it very far. But, I was an FA for 15 years. It was like, and there's nothing wrong with it. I love those guys, and I still do. I still talk to them, all that stuff. But sometimes you have to step out to kind of learn other aspects of something above the unit level or battalion level. Or, you get that really good mindset and those toolboxes that you can use later on. And it has showed where you've kind of bounced around and you network, other MACOMs and what everybody's doing.
You end up meeting more people, which helps you in the long run for any type of mission you might be planning, or just on our terms for the day-to-day job. And then just to understand more aspects of our organization. Like the CST is its own little intricate, small team that no one knows anything about. And because I spent 4 years on that team, I can tell you everything about that team, right? So it's just more aspects of the organization, more broadening assignments so that you have more bandwidth as an NCO as you promote in the ranks to be able to better perform in our organization.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and well, before we go any further with the stories or whatever, we'll take a quick break. What we'll do when we come back, we'll talk a little bit of your training aspect over the years and what you have done, and you know, stateside missions or even overseas missions that you've been on, things you've seen changed over the years. But we're going to kind of move into that EPS because, like I said, we want to start talking about it's a big deal, and I know people are listening to that part because they want to know what
they want to say about me. They want to know about
what
EPS.
Master Meredith tells me to do is what I'm doing today. All right. So when we come back, we'll talk about that. So, Master Meredith, let's talk a little bit about some of the positions you actually have been in that you're more focused to that 42 Alpha side of things. So the admin world and stuff like that. But what was something like stateside deployment that you've went on that you've kind of here recently got a little bit of experience from the last couple of years that's kind of opened your eyes to other aspects? Yeah.
So really, even more so to that note. So talking about that going into discussing EPS. So when I was a E7 at the 75th Troop Command, and I knew I was coming up on eligibility for E8, I did a deep dive into my own record, and my thought process was, what am I missing? Where are my gaps in my own record that I need to fill?
Gotcha.
Doing that first, and then kind of looking at my peer group and saying, okay, what might they have that I don't have that I can do to try to become more competitive? And at that point, it was like a bright light bulb that couldn't go out. It was obvious. The only thing I didn't have was a deployment.
Okay.
But
real quick, I like how you brought that up. You did it yourself. It's your career, and so we always try to tell soldiers there is assisting, processes along the way. Your training, CO readiness, your admin, but it's your responsibility to look at your career and look at those shortcomings or where you're missing out. So you saying that you took the reins, you found out, hey, this is one thing I might be missing, and then
right. So if I care more about your career than you do, that's a problem.
Right.
So you have to put forth that effort to do that self-evaluation. So at the time, and as luck had it, or as God had a hand in it, the first of the 149th Infantry was preparing to go to Kosovo.
Okay.
And I jumped up and down and said, "Let me go,
please."
So I ended up going as a part of their Battalion S1.
Okay.
And spent all of 2022 in Kosovo. And it worked. The methodology and that thought process worked, because as soon as I came back from Kosovo, that next promotion list published. And it was the first time I was eligible for E8, mind you.
Okay.
And I was number 1 on the promotion list. So putting forth that effort and scrubbing your own record, finding those gaps, where do I need to improve, truly pays off. So and proof's in the pudding. Like it worked.
And that's a great point with. I get it. You're like, I need to go on this deployment for my upper mobility, for my career. And by doing that, not only did it help with your EPS, I'm sure you got good training from it.
Right.
It was very good networking because you went with somebody else.
Yeah.
There's lesson learns. All that aspect of this really was kind of, whittling you a little more lethal, right?
Right,
But
absolutely.
also taking care of your career by doing that.
Yeah, and the other side of it too was, I looked at it as well and said, man, I don't want to spend 20 years in the military in this thing that I knew from in high school I wanted to be a part of, and then look back on and say, man, the one thing I never did as a soldier was deploy. So that was another big part of it too, just for me personally.
Right.
It was a fulfillment of something I wanted to accomplish in my military career. So yeah.
Very good, very good, and that's amazing that the first year you're eligible, bam, but you saw the results. So that's a good thing that you saw that. I'm sure it was very encouraging, and you're like, hey, I'm going to stay on top of this with that. So
yeah, and it validated what I kept preaching to soldiers was you got to look for these gaps. You got to find the things that you're missing in order to be more competitive. And to your point about sharpening your skills and gaining more knowledge, right? As you look through your record and you find the things that you need to build upon, and we'll talk more about that in detail when we start talking EPS.
Okay.
Like, you're gaining more tools in your toolbox, not just for yourself, but for the organization, for your unit. When you go attend a training event or you gain a certification, that pads your record, so to speak.
Yeah.
But you have a certification that then can be applied for utilization within your organization, within your unit, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, without further ado, let's just jump into it then.
Okay.
Let's just see where. Yeah, hey, I'm Sergeant B, let's figure this out here. I want to know how I can better myself. Or Specialist B. Hell, I might be by the end of this year, but we never know. But anyway, what can I do better? Where do you start when this happens? Because this is I'll tell you from the aspect of the unit level. I was a readiness NCO, I was a training NCO, but I remember, being in those formations as a young pup as well. So it was like you heard the word EPS. And you're making elections. And the first couple of times, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? I was going in. At the time, it was probably a lot of paperwork, not necessarily systems we were using. But you're going through this, going through all the stuff. And then each year, you're like, hey, why'd that guy get promoted over me? Or what right. You know what I mean? So you start noticing, and then you pay attention a little bit. And then you start doing a little bit here, a little bit there. But to be well-rounded, let's talk about what are we needing to look at? What are some of the questions that you can answer for us?
Let's start this off by saying, look, between Chief DePalma, who's the enlisted branch chief, and myself as the NCOIC, along with everyone else within the G1, like our passion for personnel and taking care of soldiers within our organization, there's not a team quite like it. And we always say, like, kind of the philosophy I always say, like, training and equipment doesn't innovate, it doesn't build cohesive teams, it doesn't exercise judgment. People do that. Soldiers do that. So our main goal is to get the right soldier in the right leadership position to build trust and gain influence over soldiers to lead them, right? And we do that on the enlisted side through EPS, through the Enlisted Promotion System. So I guess to start, the first thing to lead off with so that soldiers understand, Kentucky is a vacancy-based promotion state. So what that means is if there's not a vacant NCO position within your unit, nobody gets promoted, right? So the active component, Big Army, directs to us how many positions by rank each unit has.
Right.
And the reason why that matters, and I want soldiers to understand that, is I've had soldiers come to me over the years and say, Sergeant Meredith, I don't understand. I've been an E6 for 7 years. Why am I not getting promoted? And I have to break their heart and explain to them, like, unfortunately, seniority is not how we define leadership within our organization.
That's a big one, because I don't know how many times I've seen that happen, where this Joe over here got promoted. This Joe's like, hey, I've been in 13 years.
Right.
He's been in 9. I don't get it. I was like, okay, well, let's stop there, because it's not how this works. You know what I mean? I can go ahead and tell you that one.
Exactly.
And I understand your frustration, but there was a gap somewhere and the reason why. So, but yes.
Yeah. So it's not about your longevity. We can't just snap our fingers and say, oh, now you're an E7 within your unit. So first step, there has to be a vacancy, and then we fill the vacancy off the enlisted promotion list, the EPL. So I guess naturally the next progression would be, okay, so how do I get on the EPL? And not only that, how do I get to the top of the EPL? How do I become number 1 in my MOS on that list, right? So we'll kind of walk through these steps and the progression through EPS. And I'm going to refer to some notes because I could be long-winded. I could be long-winded when it comes to EPS because I'm passionate about it. So just to kind of keep us keep us from going over time, I'll stick to a few notes.
Okay.
So it all starts with EPS elections, right? And with EPS elections, which are done within IPSA, you're telling us in the G1 where you're willing to get promoted, right? And this is super important because we have so many soldiers that for whatever reason, they'll select UIC only. Well, we just talked about the vacancy aspect. You can be number 1 on the promotion list within your UIC, but if a vacancy never happens in your unit, you will never get promoted. And we will skip right over you. So you could be an E4 31 Bravo, and an E5 31 Bravo can become vacant, and you can be number 1 on the list. But if that E5 vacancy is not in your UIC where you told us you wanted to be promoted, we skip you, right? And you got to think about it. Like, we're managing the careers and progressions of over 5,000 enlisted soldiers in our organization. So there has to be some streamlined process to be able to do this. And IPSA elections is how we start.
So, okay, let's talk about the elections.
Okay.
You're talking about they choose UIC only, and that was the whole point of us talking about broadening out. Don't be scared to go places or whatever, because that's where progression will happen a little bit quicker if there's not vacancies in your formation at your unit. You're talking about going to IPSA. All right, so tell me about it. What are we doing here? It's going to have all these check down box, right? And we're going to go through there, and it's going to give you this location map of Kentucky. Crank, can we put that up? I'm going to do this again. This is on the fly. Put the map here. EPS map. Boom, here it is. We see it. Here's Kentucky. All these numbers right?
Yep. So we have 8 regions.
Okay, 8 regions. I'm pointing at region 1. Line that up, Crane. You got it. All right. So we got the regions.
Right.
What are you choosing by those regions? What are you saying you're going to do?
So there's a couple of options, right? So if you elect to make region elections, and an example why a soldier might do that, you might be saying, well, I'm willing to take a promotion within these particular regions in Kentucky because they're closest to my home of record.
Right.
So this is as far as I'm willing to travel for a promotion within these regions, right? Your other option for elections is by command. So UIC only, battalion only, brigade only, statewide. So if you say battalion only, that means you're telling us no matter where the vacancy is within the state, as long as it's within your current battalion, you're willing to take a promotion there. And another aspect of that, in terms of making smart elections, you have to know what is within your organization. So, for example, if you're a 17 Echo, if you're an electronic warfare specialist, and you say battalion only, you should probably make sure there are other 17 Echo positions within your organization before you say battalion only, because you'll never get promoted.
Right, because some of them top out and they don't have those next. The next ranks are at a different battalion or brigade level.
Yeah, and a recent tool that we developed within the G1 that's available now through Teams is a tool to help soldiers make smart elections. So readiness NCOs, I'm sure we have a couple of unit leadership teams that have access to the G1 Teams channel. Mm-hmm. You can go in Teams, you can look at this map that we've built where you can see by MOS, by region, where positions are throughout the state, so that you can make those intelligent, informed elections. And that's live and available right now.
And then we'll make sure, once we publish this, that it'll be in some of that description and stuff, so people will know as well, because that would be a handy tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so we make our elections.
Yep.
This is where we're saying we're going to go, right?
Yep.
You're going to click that button. You're going to say, all right, confirm. So you've done it, right? So if a soldier is like, why am I UIC only? Then there might be an issue, right?
Yeah.
Hey, we need to look at this, because if you're willing to go here, you only got USC only, there's something in IPSA we got to fix.
Yeah, so something in IPSA we got to fix, and then our backup is a hard copy 4187.
Right, so sign off on.
Technology can flaw sometimes, but that piece of paper where you circle yourself for elections and you sign it, that's the backup.
Very important.
Right.
Everybody listen to that, very important.
Yeah, so when you're doing the 4187, make sure what you put on the 4187 matches what you elected in IPSA.
All right.
Yep. So step number 1, that 4187. Your IPSA elections and the 4187, okay? And then the next piece, the next layer to this to talk about would be the types of boards. So we have 2 boards within the state, semi-centralized and centralized. So your semi-centralized boards are for what we'll call junior NCOs. So E4 is going to E5 and E5 is going to E6s.
Okay, that's semi. There you go, okay.
So your junior NCOs. And that board is completely administrative. Mm-hmm. So it's solely based off what points you have within IPSA, okay? And we can talk through some of those categories of points, right? So for your point maximum for semi-centralized is 800 points. And in Kentucky, we've established a 20-point minimum. So you have to have done something, some contribution to your unit to at least achieve 20 points.
Right.
And then, just so everyone knows, the point cutoff going into the FY27 is 5 February 2027.
5 February.
So as we talk about this, soldiers have from the time of this podcast, right, to 5 February 2027 to maximize their points.
Okay.
To a possible 800.
To 800.
So your categories would be weapons qual.
Okay.
AFT. PME, so your primary military education, and the big points there is if you're an E4 competing for E5 and you go to BLC, you get an automatic 150 points.
Just by going.
Just by going.
And I think that's a big thing to kind of harp on, because we know how these schools have they always change. You got to have this before you get promoted. And then it's like, no, you ain't got to have this before you get promoted.
Right.
But the encouraging part of this is if you do it, 150
you
points.
Get points. Right.
Right there.
And the same thing for E5s. If you're an E5 and you go to ALC, automatic 150 points.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're leaning forward and you're being aggressive and trying to be promoted, ask to go to school. Mm-hmm. Right. And then resident training. So that is ATARS courses outside of requirements for your MOS.
Got you.
Promotion points.
And so that's the thing I want to talk about as well, because I've always heard, about those and try to push those to soldiers, that of course, with we talked about marksman, how well you shoot. So just know, expert, sharpshooter, all that counts as your EPS points, right? Different points. Same as the AFT. If you go out there and you're just doing the minimum, just realize you're getting minimum points for certain categories. So you want to work on your PT, work on being physically fit. But with this, you're talking about these courses that you could take out ATARs is just something that's totally different than they're probably not going to have them at drill waiting for you. This ain't like some of those Army Warrior tests we check off, right? It's actual online courses that you can take over different subjects, many different subjects.
Right. So with the resident courses, those are the courses that are like the unique courses that maybe your readiness NCO would say, hey, I need a volunteer to go attend this course. Right. And then the next category would be your computer-based training. So those online courses that you could access through JKO, Army e-learning, and I think ATAR self-development, right? So all of those things are worth promotion points, okay? Let's see. Then you got civilian education, which is a big one. There are absolutely some soldiers that just say, I absolutely don't want to go to college. It's not for me. And I understand that. Yeah. But at the same time, you got to realize those soldiers that choose to embrace that suck of going back to school, they're going to get additional promotion
just
points for that, right?
Yeah. And with that, you can get free education.
Right.
And we pay for it. Use that. The Guard will pay for your education. Go back to Coolidge, be the cool guy or gal, you know what I mean? Go out there and try to better yourself. Find something. Even if you, like you said, if it's just the general ed part of it, you'll still get points for getting that associate's degree or whatever. There's points based that go off it. So it's like, utilize the free tuition, but also it's for promotion. I mean, it could be, it could make you stand out over some people. Absolutely. Because some people have that level playing field, and I've heard them talk about it. Well, guess what? I had a degree, and that's what pushed me over the edge. And it's like, dang, man, that's crazy, right? So better yourself. Don't be like me. Go back and get a degree. Come on now. All right.
And then the last category for semi-centralized would be federal and state awards. And so there's two sides to that, right? Okay. One side would be, that means you got to show up to drill and apply yourself, right? That means you got to come to AT and not just show up. You got to apply yourself. You got to do things worthy
above your job,
of an award, right? Yes. So don't sit in the corner on the drill hall, scrolling Facebook or looking on TikTok. Like, get up and apply yourself. Right. So that's one side of it. The other side is, and this is kind of a senior enlisted advisement moment to commanders, right? If they'll listen, there are some commanders out there that are like white knuckle fisted when it comes to awards, and they say, "Nope, not in my formation. Like, you got to earn it." Like, and the standards just for a simple award. And I don't want to undermine awards. Like, they need to have some value. They need to have merit to them. Yes. But if you are gripped tight with your standards for approving awards, you got to understand, if you have adjacent companies or adjacent battalions or brigades and they have a different award philosophy, you're only hurting your own formation. In that category, you are just hurting your own formation. You're only holding back your own soldiers. Right. So there's got to be some wisdom in making decisions with how commanders approve awards.
And I like how you brought both sides of that. Because I think we've all seen it as senior leaders that there's times that it's like, well, I don't know, but it's like, man, this guy's going above and beyond, or girl, they're killing it. They show up, they're doing their thing, and it's like, hey, we need to recognize them, right? And like you said, there's other formations doing it, so they're kind of getting that edge over your own soldiers who are very much so outperforming their duties.
Right, and just an interesting note that came to mind when it comes to awards, and again, this goes back to command teams. So Chief De Palma and I did some digging this past board cycle, and we found, and it was just a weird statistic that we came across. So if you are a commander and you have a parent unit and a detachment, every detachment across our state statistically got less awards than the parent unit. So that's just something interesting, something to think about, and make sure that your soldiers assigned to a det are getting the same love as the parent unit. Yeah. So we just found that as a really interesting thing, and I think that's important to make sure commanders are aware of that.
It might be a reminder that, hey, you might want to visit a little more or partake in that. Yeah, because I do understand they got a lot on their plate. Yeah, everybody's trying to get their training done. There's a lot of stuff that goes on during drill weekends and those short times of annual trainings and stuff. So, but yeah, share the love. I get that 100%.
So that covers all the categories within promotion points for semi-centralized. So for soldiers to be able to see their points. So we talked about the categories.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do I see it? How do I
Right.
know my
Where
point?
do I go?
Where am I at?
Yeah.
So within IPSA, in the
Okay.
same place that you're going to make those region elections, you look at what's called your promotion point worksheet,
Okay.
or your PPW. And that PPW, which will show a soldier who's eligible for promotion where their current points are.
Got you.
So again, you got from the time you're listening or watching this podcast till the 5th of February 2027
Okay.
to raise those points based off of what you see on your PPW.
Got you.
Yep.
All right. Let's do this. When we come back, let's take a quick break. I mean, we're throwing out a lot of information. Very good. I mean,
Okay.
if you're a young junior enlisted or that young NCO, you should already be taking these notes. Because I am, because it's kind of refreshing me as the old readiness stage trying to brief this
Sure.
stuff. But yeah, you've hit on some good points already. Let's take a quick break. We come back. We'll probably hit on the centralized side
Yep,
of it,
we will.
and we'll go a little further with it. And we'll talk about even some of the little things that you have noticed that helps as well. Even these little side things that people may not think about.
Okay.
So yeah,
good.
we'll come back after the break. Welcome back to the G3P. I do a lot of finger pointing, Master Sgt. That's just like my thing, I think. Anyway, if you're watching, you notice it, but if you don't, I do the fast guns. Shout out, I miss Benita here at the Joint Force Headquarters building. The cleaning lady, nice lady, love her. Got to see her while ago. She's it's just a great job. Shout out to you. You're making this place, as Paul would say, like, it smells good up in here. But so we're coming back. We are talking EPS.
Yep.
We have kind of covered a little bit of your life story, military history. We've talked about the semi-centralized board, and that was the E4s and E5s, correct?
Right.
So let's talk now about the centralized board, and that's going to be the E6s and above, correct?
Yeah,
That's where we're at.
so
All right, let's go for
centralized
it.
boards is we'll just refer to them as senior NCOs.
Okay.
We'll keep it easy. So all your E6 and above, right? And it's important for soldiers to understand this board is different. It is not conducted in the same way as the junior NCO board.
Right.
So semi-centralized, all point-based. It's just what's your points in IPSA, and then we generate the promotion list and rank it top to bottom off those points.
Mm-hmm.
Centralized boards are conducted drastically different.
Okay.
So centralized boards, we'll sum it up and kind of paint the picture of how it works.
Talk to me like I'm silly.
All right,
Oh, I
so-
went different on you.
So we bring together a panel of board members, and we select board members from across battalions, across brigades, from a variety of MOSs, male and female, minorities, and we get the total population, right? And we bring them and we put them on lockdown at Wiffertech for a whole week. We even go as far as, so when Chief DePalma and I took over Enlisted Branch, we said we are going to get transparency in this process.
Perfect.
Because you and I have been around long enough, and for the longest time, at least for me, coming up, the mentality when it came to EPS was good old boy system. There's nepotism and nefarious things
You always hear
happening,
it, right? Yep.
And when we got into Enlisted Branch, we said no more. We are going to be as transparent as the regulation allows us to be.
Okay.
So we went as far as even saying if funding is available, we're going to get out-of-state board members. So as long as funds are there, like this past year there was, we brought in some out-of-state board members. So people who had no ties, no connection to Kentucky soldiers, command sergeant majors, sergeant majors, brought them into Kentucky to be a part of our
Part of that
boards,
board.
just to have that impartial
Yeah.
look at our soldiers.
Makes sense.
So we bring the board members in, we put them on lockdown at Wiffertech, and their sole job for an entire week is just to evaluate our soldiers. And the evaluation happens in a system called Army Selection Board System, ASBS.
Okay.
So the important part behind ASBS is we've only used it for 2 years. It was a system used for active duty officer promotion boards, and Chief DePalma and I had a chance to go shadow at HRC, see how the system works, and we implemented it in Kentucky. And we were the first National
Really?
Guard. We were the first state to utilize ASBS for
Very
enlisted
cool.
promotion boards.
Gotcha.
And
is this available for just the soldiers even being
Yes,
boarded, or is
so
it okay?
that-
so
that's the
every
point.
soldier
That's
can
the
get on
point
there.
we'll hit on.
Okay.
So within ASBS, and why it's such a great tool for us to use for our boards is there's a function called My Board File. And right now, soldiers can go into their My Board File and they can see exactly what the board members are going to see from their board file.
That's what they're viewing.
Right. So that is a process we've never had before.
Right.
At least for us coming up in the ranks. So with ASBS, My Board File, you can go in and you can see your packet right? Exactly as it is as the board members see it. So we bring those board members in and we put them on lockdown, and they establish criteria, right? They establish the point basis for how they're going to score soldiers before they even look at the first packet.
Yeah.
And this is where there's kind of a point of contention, right? Because soldiers every year when the list publishes and they know there's a point scale of 1 to 6, they want to know, well, how do I get a 6?
What was the criteria?
What's the criteria? Publish the criteria. We want to see it, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. We don't publish the criteria. And one, the regulation doesn't allow us to.
Okay.
But two, I would tell soldiers, you don't need the criteria, right? And I'll get to that point.
Okay.
But so what happens is the state leadership, through the state command sergeant major, through Sergeant Major Withers, he delivers what's called his charge. So he gives a written document to all the board members and says, this is my charge. These are the things that our organization at this point in time, based off of our mission and what we see happening in the near and far future, these are the things we want you to prioritize because we think these are the things that are going to be best suited to determine our future leaders based off of where our organization currently is. And that's part of the reason for not publishing that criteria every year because it's dynamic, it shifts, it changes based off the needs of the organization. So if we publish it and it's a stagnant document every year and something about the world landscape, right, changes to where we drastically need to shift how we're evaluating how we pick our future leaders, we'll be stuck and we'll be hamstrung to something that's outdated and old that probably won't get us what we need moving into the future. So that's the main reason for not publishing that criteria is we got to have that dynamic flexibility built into it.
And it's a good point. Like I want to touch on that because I've been in those ranks too, where it's like, what the hell was we graded on, right? You know, where did I fall short? I want to know. It does make sense. And if you don't do it, it keeps a soldier, a senior leader, on their toes. They should be well-rounded in everything.
And we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about. I see what you're saying.
We'll talk about what the solution is, even if you don't know exactly pinpointing what makes a 6, right? And that's where ASBS and my board file comes in. So you have that tool available to you. And much like I told you with my story and my deployment to Kosovo, realizing to be competitive as an E7 in the military, I need to have a deployment. Like that's my competitive edge at that time. So ASBS, you can apply that same concept. So right now, you competing for E8, if you were to go into ASBS, the categories you're going to see, and then the categories that are within the State Command Sergeant Major's charge to the board members are all within ASBS. So it's military education, height, weight, AFT, weapons qual, civilian education, awards, skills and qualifications, and then the biggest difference, the last few categories are the biggest difference for centralized boards compared to semi-centralized, is your rater performance and your senior rater potential.
NCOERs.
NCOERs.
Okay.
So this is another point where I'll stress to raters and senior raters out there, if you are not completing evaluations for your soldiers, you are killing them. Like, I don't care if you think they are the best soldier within your organization. Don't do their NCOER. I promise you, they're not going to be number 1 on the list. They just won't, because that is the one authorized document that you're allowed to talk about a performance and potential from outside of the soldier themselves. That's it. That's all we have to work off of. So you've got to have NCOERs completed. They just have to be. The other additional categories would be assignments. So like I said, deployments, broadening assignments, leadership assignments, and then the last one would be Army values. So we gauge Army values based off of, is there anything within your NCOERs that goes against SHARP or EO, right? Is there anything on a 1059 that violates an Army program or that conflicts with the Army values? And then 1059s would be that last category. So with 1059s for centralized boards, it's not enough to just go to school. Show up, like perform.
Perform there.
So board members can see if you were
Commandant's list, okay.
honor grad, distinguished honor
right.
grad.
Yep.
So perform, and I promise you, it will pay huge dividend when it comes to promotion boards. And you can see that when you go into your My Board file, you'll see all those details. You'll be able to scroll and see any 1059 or NCOER that you signed in EES.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's pulling that
Yeah.
data right into ASBS.
Got you.
And you'll be able to see was I a
What is
commandant's
it?
list?
Yes.
Like, are those things that
Very
I
cool.
earned showing in my record?
Yeah. I saw badass in mine. So it's coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then the last piece would be if you have something missing. So if you review your My Board file, let's say for myself, for example, if I look at my board file and I know I have 2 MOSs, I have 42 Alpha and 35 Fox.
Right.
But I look at my board file and I only see 42 Alpha, something's missing.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the option to submit what's called a letter to the president of the board. So that letter is your way to officially communicate to the board about any discrepancy within your board file.
Right.
So anything missing, anything that, let's say you were missing an NCOER. If you had an eval missing and you needed to provide explanation for why, you do it through that letter to the president. So if it just so happened that your eval was submitted to examiner, so it's just waiting for HRC to go review it and submit it to IPERMS, you can put that in the memo and at least explain to the board members the discrepancies or the insufficiencies within your record. Right. So that tool is there available.
And it's very important. So if you're in there reviewing, it's the time to catch it.
Yeah.
And if you know it's going to be outside that time period of when the list will publish, or you can do that memo.
Yeah,
right? You can do the memo and talk to them.
If you're a senior NCO with a discrepancy, especially something big like missing an NCOER,
that's huge.
And you don't address it in a memo, you're telling the board members you don't care.
Right.
And you're telling the board members, like, and think about it through the mindset of a board member. If you're an E7 and you're missing an eval and you're telling me you want to compete to be an E8, but you don't even address why NCOERs are missing from your record, I'm not going to take you seriously when I'm trying to promote you to E8, right?
Yeah, I get it.
So when you take all those different fields for the centralized boards, all those different categories you see in your My Board file, and you start thinking about that scale of 1 to 6, like how are they doing this?
Yeah.
I would tell soldiers, don't get so focused and caught up on what's a 6? I need to know the 6. Look at your My Board file and look for the gaps. Look for the things that are missing. So, example, let's say you're an E7 and you look in your My Board file and you look at your qualifications and skills. So, ASIs, SQIs, those are your like badge producing courses, airborne air assault, and EO. Victim advocate. So there's a whole list. There's hundreds of ASIs and SQIs. So if you're an E7 and you start looking at your record and you're saying, man, how do I make sure that I am high in all these categories? How do I get closest to a 6 as possible? Well, that's one of the things. If you see a gap, you have no ASIs or SQIs, guess what? The rest of this calendar year going into next year, find a course that will produce a qualification or a skill. The easiest one I would tell soldiers to go to talk to their readiness NCOs about is probably battle staff, right? Like go to battle staff. That produces you an additional qualification. And again, it's not only like padding your record to get you top of the list. You're gaining a skill and you're gaining knowledge that you then bring to the table. You become a force multiplier for the organization because now you know how to run a talk.
And that's awesome.
Right?
So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. And we keep harping on it is, yes, we're padding the stats. I understand. Yes, you want to do the love me binder, all that stuff, whatever. And you're helping your career. But you're gaining stuff in the process. You're not just doing this just to do it for these points or whatever. It's like, once again, it's whittling you down to the spearhead, right?
To the organization.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and it's making you more dangerous out there in the lethal world, right? We got to better yourself, keep pushing yourself. It's one of the things you can do. So I get that.
And I understand. I am not going to satisfy all soldiers by telling them you're not going to see published criteria. But if you at least listen to what I'm saying, take time to actually review your My Board file. And again, going back to talking to unit leadership and commanders and first sergeants, you also have to allow within your training schedule soldiers time to review their My Board file. Like, it's not enough to say, well, when we're done with training down at Wiffertech in the evenings, they can review their My Board file. Come on, you got to be realistic. Give them time when their minds are sharp. Be intentional about scheduling that time in your training plan so that soldiers can actually take EPS seriously. So we can't spend time doing a whole podcast about EPS, but then we have command teams that aren't also contributing to the efforts so that our soldiers can perform well when it comes to these boards. So I think I've hit
You did a great job.
a lot of the content.
Well, let's just go from here, though. So we talked about the semi-centralized board. We talked about the centralized board. So when we were talking from E4s and up, right, how we get promoted. And can I talk about yours?
What's that?
What's happening for you in the world?
Okay.
Yeah, big announcement.
Sure.
And this was just a couple days ago.
Tuesday as the filming of this podcast. Yeah.
All right, I got
so
you.
The ink is still drying.
So somebody checked his profile, his ASBS, did I say it right? Perfect.
Yep.
He went through all his stuff, checked all the box, bam, and he's getting ready to be, you're going to be the next Sergeant Major for the G1, right?
Yep.
Congratulations.
So came out number one, not only number 142 Alpha, but the number one E8 on the 00 Fox list.
Right.
And was selected to be the G1 Sergeant Major. So
that is awesome. Great news.
I appreciate
Couldn't happen
that.
to a better person. I very, very much so. And telling on myself that my wife, most people know, you know, we're a dual status. She's at M-Day. You were, at one point, you were her NCOIC over at 6th Tab. So it's like I kind of put the face, once I showed up here, and was like, oh, I remember Master Sergeant Meredith. So, but hey, congratulations on that. That's very awesome.
Thanks,
and
Sergeant B.
what better time to be talking about EPS than this happens. So, but yeah, no, I think you've hit some great points. I think this is something that the soldiers will put in their toolbox because it is hard. Like you said, there's a lot of training that goes on in a unit. I understand it. I've been there. We got so much to get done, and there's a lot of admin. We all know there's a lot of admin, but with that, if a unit is kind of needing help, and I know like their battalions and their brigades have those 42 Alpha teams, is there something they can reach out to you guys and kind of help mitigate? Because I know sometimes we've reached out and got SRP teams to show up and help us with SRP or something like that. Is there something still available as far as doing stuff like that with the G1?
So a bit of a public service announcement, especially with AT season coming up. Within we have a SRP request form, request form that is submitted to the G1. One of the blocks on that form is Enlisted Branch.
Perfect.
So if you're a unit prepping to go to AT and you want Enlisted Branch to come out and give an in-depth brief on EPS, because we just scratched the surface here.
Right.
So if you want that in-depth brief and you want it from the subject matter experts,
Sergeant B will be there.
Sergeant B will be there. Yes, not me. Sergeant B. So EPS or EPM will come and we will give a brief to your entire battalion, to your entire brigade at AT, if that fits within the training plan. So it's absolutely available.
And that's the whole point, I think, is what drove this podcast is not only talk about these stories, get out information, but give you some tools. Right. So, I mean, with that, I'll work with you offline. Maybe I'll get that form and we'll publish it with this episode, or they'll know where to find it and get that help. Because, I mean, like I say, I know what's on the plates of everybody. We're busy. We're trying to get things done. But it's a big deal to keep not just morale, but this is their careers, right? And we want soldiers to take care of themselves, but also we're here for them as well. But I think, we just scratched the surface, but I think this has been very enjoyable to hear. I know it's a little bit different pace of our other podcasts, but a lot of information just in that short amount of time. So, Master Sergeant, I appreciate you coming in today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Do my thing here. Want to give you a little gift. You put
awesome.
this on your desk down there. You tell people where you've been.
Absolutely.
That's the G3 podcast Fix Bayonet coffee mug. We all drink coffee.
Awesome.
Or if you don't, your Red Bull or whatever, put in that cup. Make it look sexy.
Will do.
And let everybody see it. But with that, like I said, appreciate you coming in today. Appreciate everybody tuning in and enjoy life. Be healthy. Stay lethal. We'll see you on the next episode. I mean, that'd be great.
Thank you for joining us on the Kentucky National Guard G3 podcast, where we bring you the voices and stories behind the mission. Stay connected, stay ready, and we'll see you on the next episode.